The male advantage. Alright, this is going to go on top of my quality man video that I just made. But what is the male advantage? Now, I want to give all credit to First Man for this, another YouTuber. He's sort of coined this term, the male advantage, and heaps of YouTubers are talking about it in like the self-development space. And so they should, because it's extremely powerful. I think it's something intuitively that all men know on a deep level, but we've forgotten. And society, for the most part, has sort of helped us to forget. So basically, the thing to realize is that men aren't on the time frame that women are, right? So generally, masculine and feminine energy have different strengths, right? So obviously, one's attracted to the other. Masculine beings are attracted to feminine beings, and feminine beings are attracted to masculine beings on average. Even in gay relationships, usually you see a masculine-feminine polarity in any deep, romantic, loving relationship. So, I want to go into what the male advantage actually is. So generally for women, their social power, or like their SMV, sexual market value, which is a bit of a bro science term, but that generally peaks in about their early to mid-20s, right? So a woman who's, say, 23, which is generally the peak of this thing, 23-year-old woman, as far as attracting a guy, attracting a husband, attracting a man, usually about 23 to maybe 28, they're going to be in their peak. They're going to be able to attract the highest quality guy possible. And highest quality in the respect of all the things like high value man I was talking about. So basically, do they have status? Do they have money? Do they have a good body? Do they have freedom? Are they a good person? Are they mentally balanced? So on and so on. They're going to have the best chance doing that between probably 23 and 28. And then it'll sort of taper off slowly till their mid-30s, early 40s. And I'm not talking about sex. Women are always going to be able to get sex at the snap of their fingers. I'm talking about love, intimacy, deep relationships, children, family, all this deep stuff. You know, a 50-year-old, even probably a 60-year-old woman could easily go out to a bar and go home with a guy. Right? They have this superpower that guys are just never going to have. But when it comes to wanting to be locked down, wanting to be with someone long-term, that's where age becomes harder. Because obviously, if a successful man, say he's got all the things, he's got the money, he's got the body, he's got the freedom, all this stuff, when he wants to settle down and have children, he wants a woman who's a bit younger, who's fertile, who's going to be able to have many children, and basically fertility. Fertility is like the number one thing a high-value man's going to value if he wants to have children, right? So he's going to be going for women in that sort of range, like maybe not 18, 19, because they're probably still immature, even early 20s, probably still a bit immature. But by about 23, a lot of women are starting to figure themselves out. So 23 to 28 is really this sweet spot where women are very beautiful, but you can also sort of have a deeper conversation because they've got some more life experience. So that's sort of when females peak, is like 23 to 28. Again, not in life, they're going to grow and become better in other ways and stuff, but as far as their sexual market value or their value to men for marriage, for lifelong, long-term serious relationships, that's where they're going to have the most power. For men, a lot of men are thinking this is their schedule too. So they're thinking if they get to 30, 35, 40 and they haven't found the right person, they're struggling, because obviously if a woman's 30, she's going to struggle to settle down long term with a guy, and even if she does, she's going to struggle to have children, right? So, but a man who's 40, he can do that easily. Plus he's had time to stockpile resources and all this stuff in order to provide for that family, to make that family the best possible unit that it can be. So it's a really interesting thing to consider. For men, when they've run studies, the male advantage for a man is it usually kicks off in the late 20s, early 30s. So let's say it starts at 30, and it usually goes until a man is showing like visible and cognitive decline. So their body's aging and their mind's aging. So let's say that's about 45. So for women, let's say maybe 18 to like 35, that's sort of their window where they're going to have the most social power as far as their sexual market value. For men, that's generally about 30 up to about 45. Because basically, think about it. As a 20-year-old, what do you have? You probably haven't had the time to build a significant body for yourself. You probably haven't had time to acquire any big skills. You're probably still studying or doing some entry-level work. where you're really not making that much money. You probably definitely don't have enough resources to provide for a family, right? And there's a bunch of other stuff too. Socially, you're just not as intelligent. Women usually mature more quickly than men do. So you're probably going out and getting drunk and being silly and doing all this stuff that young men do. Young women do it too, but that's another story. Then you can go into sort of the social things. You know, by their 30s, a man has connections. He knows people. Usually he has more freedom. Maybe he has a house. Like, think of it this way. If a woman wants to settle down, say she's 23, is she going to date a 20-year-old guy who has no money, who lives with his mum and dad, who is like studying a degree, basically has no social power, and he's going out every weekend getting drunk with his friends? Or a 30-year-old that has a house, has a 6-figure income, has a nice body, has their life together, you know, has enough money to go traveling, has enough money to have children and to provide for children and look after her when she's having those children, so on, so on, so on. It's not even a competition. So I think it's really weird. When I was in my early 20s, I'd see a lot of women dating people in their 30s, and it spun me out, that 10-year, 15-year age gap or whatever. But now I'm getting older, I sort of understand it a lot more, right? Because you're sort of in a similar headspace. A woman at 23, again, if she hasn't been sort of convinced otherwise, she's probably looking to have a family and to settle down and do all this stuff, to cultivate her feminine energy. So for masculine beings, that's purpose, right? A masculine being wants to set goals and achieve them and grow. That's really what the masculine thrives on. Feminine energy, and again, this isn't man and woman, this is masculine, feminine. Feminine energy wants to cultivate love. So basically, a feminine being wants to cultivate the love within themselves and expand that out into others. So it's a very healing energy. Like, a masculine energy is a very practical, logical, real world, here and now energy. When feminine energy, it's like, it's more spiritual, it's more emotional, it's more subtle. So where a man can maximize their masculine, where they can become this big, powerful figure who can influence others and can achieve cool things, a feminine being can go in and cultivate this love, and that's powerful. A lot of people sort of, they see the feminine as weak. In the West, even a lot of women, they see feminine energy as weak, as like being submissive and being manipulated and so on and so on. But feminine energy is extremely powerful. Feminine energy is what keeps society together. It's the love, it's the connection. It's the groups of people, you know, the unions that look out for the rights of others. It's a very healing energy. The masculine would just go off and destroy everything if it didn't have a feminine energy to ground it, to keep it on that sort of purpose. Also, the feminine moves the masculine. If there was no feminine energy, there was none of that love and that healing that masculine beings crave so much. If that didn't exist, then masculine beings wouldn't want to do anything. Because at the end of the day, most men, not all men, some have higher purpose, but a lot of men just want to do what they want to make enough money and build enough status, basically, to attract a woman and have kids. And if that didn't exist, attracting that woman and having children, if that wasn't a thing, then a lot of men wouldn't do all the stuff that they've done throughout history, right? Because they wouldn't need to. They wouldn't have that drive to do it. So as a man, as you grow, as you get older, you're slowly going to realize if you do the right things, and again, if you do the right things, your life's going to be better. So it's not an average. If you're 30, your life's probably going to be better than your 20. But if you mess up, like if you have kids in your early 20s and you make no money and you're in debt and you got like, you know, you got married at 21, you got divorced at 26, and all this stuff happens. Maybe you committed a crime, went to prison, whatever you've done. It's really easy to sort of miss out on that male advantage because it has to be earned. It's not given to you. Like if a woman's young and beautiful, sure, she probably has to work for that beauty, but it's nearly given to them. They've got this huge window, right? When for men, it's different. Like, not every man's going to step into that male advantage. Not every man's going to have their stuff together in their 30s. But if you can do it, if you can be like the one-off guy that does it, in the ocean of guys that don't, you're going to stand out. If you make above average money, you're going to stand out. If you have a good body that's like, say, top 10%, or you've got some muscle and it's better than everyone else's body, you know, you're going to stand out. If you're really chill and have charisma and you're funny and you've got social skills, you're going to stand out. If you have the freedom to travel and do cool stuff, you're going to stand out. And I could just go on and on and on. That's why, as a guy, from that age sort of 30 to 45, you can do cool stuff. You know, you've got a lot more freedom, you make a lot more money, you probably have more time too. But what you need to do to get to that is you need to start building. In your 20s, even in your teens if you want to, you need to start building that sort of framework so that when you do hit your peak, you can be way ahead of everyone else. Because what happens, you don't really see a difference. Two 20-year-olds, you don't see a difference. By the time those two 20-year-olds are 30, if one did the right things and one didn't, you're going to see a substantial difference in those two men, right? So, in a nutshell, that's the male advantage. So if you're 20 and you're depressed because you can't get women and you don't make money and you don't have freedom, you live with your parents and they like control you because you're still living under their roof, so on, that's okay. I mean, so many, like the suicide rates for men, you've got people in their 20s, people in like middle age. They're the two hot spots. Middle age mainly because of divorce and people leaving each other and stuff like that. In the 20s, it's mainly like a purpose. It's men don't know what they want to do. They don't feel valued in society because obviously the government takes on a lot of the roles men used to. Like, women did need men at one point. They needed them because they were physically larger, they could handle things. They weren't as emotionally controlled. Like, if something really bad happened, they could sort of get up and fight more easily on average. So men were needed. In society today, men aren't needed. It's almost like men are an accessory, right? Like, they're not needed. A woman doesn't need to date a man and have children and all this stuff like they might have, 1,000 years ago. It's not like that anymore. So a lot of men are lost because they feel like women don't need them, which in reality they don't for the most part. And that makes them feel miserable. But if you go into the male advantage, if you become like somebody, if you become skilled at something, if you become someone who's known as being good at something, and you have a good body, you have a bit of money, you got some freedom, you got all these things that 90% of men don't have, then you're going to stand out. And then basically, once you're in that small percentage of top tier guys, you're going to have the pick. You're going to be able to date whoever you want to date. And you're going to be able to do what you want, You can do what you want with that. You can settle down and have a family with a beautiful woman and do all this. You could just party, you could do what you want. You've earned it at that point. But if you don't earn it, you'll never have it. You know what I mean? Just to have a house and have a family, you've got to be like a top 20% guy these days. I mean, it's brutal. We live in a brutal society. If you really want to have these things, you have to have money, have a house, have some freedom, have a cool job, do all this stuff. And why wouldn't you want to do that? That's what I mean. But there is sacrifice. You can't abuse your body. You can't waste your life. You can't just waste your time playing video games or doing any activity that has no real benefit. You can do that sometimes, but you've got to balance it with productive, sort of valuable things. So if you want to get into this male advantage, I'm working on it myself. Like, I look at myself at 20 and now I'm 26. There is a huge difference there, right? 20 years old, I lived with my parents and I studied music, which is like a useless degree, but no one really told me that. And even if they did, I probably wouldn't have listened. It was fun, but it didn't really get me anywhere. What else? I didn't really know how to date, didn't really know how to attract women. Didn't know any of this when I was 20 years old. I had little bits and pieces of being able to do all this stuff. I never really traveled. I wasn't cultured. I hadn't really made the friends I have now. There's so many other things. Like, I was probably wasting way more time. Need I go on? Now at 26, this is my place. I've got a house. I make decent money. I'm not rich, but I make decent money, especially for my age. If I want to go and attract a girl, I can do that. If I wanted a girlfriend, I could go meet a girl and make that happen. What else? I know how to make more money. I've got more skills. I'm starting to get respect, like in things like martial arts and music and things I'm passionate about. I sort of have a bit of respect now because I'm fairly good at those things. And so on. I mean, I'm 26. I'm not at my male advantage yet. But I'm on the way. I want to become an outlier male because if you become an outlier male, basically you got more money and more strength and more power and more influence and more status than an average guy. Your life gets incrementally better for the most part. In every way. The people you can meet more quality people. You can meet more quality women. You have more freedom. You have more control of your life, control of your time. and so on, so on. So the reward is huge. I mean, the reward of putting in hard work is awesome. Like, to buy this house, I moved out in the country for a year, and I taught out in the country. I taught in this tiny little town. It's like 1,000 people. I wasn't miserable. That's actually, if you look back, it's when I started this YouTube channel. But I was just hanging out in the bush for a year. Didn't really want to hang out in the bush, but I did it. And as a result, now I have this house. So that's an example of delayed gratification. There's countless examples of that. Countless of people, I haven't even been that good. I've been pretty lazy. You know, I've spent heaps of days just lying around doing nothing. Some people that really have that grind on, they can achieve amazing things. And I'm sort of starting to get that fire back to push into the sort of the life I want to live. And I'm working on it. You know, I'm planning by 30 to be significantly ahead in every area of my life than I am now. And that's really powerful. That's going to provide a very powerful life for me. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to understand, like, on the nice layer, sort of being friendly. It's saying, you know, if you're 20, 25, you're miserable, you don't know who you are, you haven't sorted your life out, that's totally fine, because that's every 20-year-old. That's, you know, nearly every 25-year-old. They haven't sorted their lives out. So it's okay. That's fine. That's normal. But at the same time, that's like being nice. It's saying, understand that your life will almost certainly get better as long as you do something. You know, even if you have a normal average paying job at 30, that's still going to be ahead of where you were at 20. But you look at it too, if you do put in the work, if you do the right things, if you build into who you want to be and you achieve the things you want to achieve, you get to 30 and your life's just awesome. At least that's what I've seen in the lives of everyone I know who's actually put in effort, who's hustled, who's tried to do something that not everyone does. They've tried to become an outlier. They've tried to become special at something. Gives them meaning, gives them purpose. It's powerful. You don't have to be a billionaire. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to be jacked. You don't have to be an athlete. You don't have to be like a celebrity. You don't have to do any of this, right? But you do want to become the best you can. Not just because of what you'll get out of it from the world, but because you'll feel good. If you wake up and you've got a healthy body and a healthy mind and some money in the bank, you'll feel great, right? You're going to feel way better than if you don't have those things. So that's my hit on the male advantage. First Man does it so well. If you don't watch that YouTuber, I totally recommend him. He's probably one of the few I still watch, and I'm making this sort of content. A lot of it's the same thing over and over again, like how to approach a girl, how to go to the gym, how to do this, really surface level stuff. You don't need to watch video on that. You can, sure, it's entertaining, it might help you, but you don't need to. When, like, YouTubers like First Man, and there's a couple of others, but he's really good. Alex Becker's pretty good. I've been having a look at his stuff recently, but these guys are the real deal. They're actually starting businesses, they're doing cool stuff. And it's awesome to see what they've pulled off. You know, find people that resonate with you. Like, I like Leo Guro from actualize.org, he's pretty cool. In my opinion, he's a high value man, but he's not what you call a quote unquote high value man. But you look, a lot of successful people, they're in their 30s and their 40s. You got the internet, which sort of corrupts it, makes you think most young people are successful when they're not. So yeah, if you gain something out of this, give the video a like. Comment what you think. What do you think the male advantage is? Do you agree with the stuff I'm saying, or do you think it's nonsense? Like, I'd love to know. And share it with anyone you think can help, especially if they're younger, you know, if they're in their teens or 20s, and they feel miserable and they feel like they're not where they want to be, then that's totally fine. That's normal. It's sort of like this phase to grind and figure out who you are and what you want to become. Even if you achieve nothing, if you get to 30, but you have clarity with what you want to do with your life, you're way ahead of most people. You know, if you say you got nothing, you got no money, you're like skinny or fat or whatever, and you got no idea, but at 30 you've got, you know what you want to do, and you've got the fire to actually do it. That's awesome. You know, you're still going to grow incrementally. It's not about being the best on the planet. It's about being better than you were yesterday. Because some things you can't control, but if you can control it, go and do it. Go and maximize it. So yeah, peace out. Enjoy the rest of your day. Remember, the male advantage is awesome. So I would aspire to it. I personally am trying to, like, set my life up for that. But yeah, love you to do it too. It's more fun. Peace.